Hello and welcome to the VloggingPod. Today we talk protocol versus reality.
VloggingPod starts like a conversation. Cup of coffee with no destination. Just voices trying to understand what's happening across this land. From your stories told to the pages turned. Every question, every word, supported by SheShareStudios.net.
Hello once again from VloggingPod. There are certain rules that most people never think about. Not because they're hidden, but because they are simply assumed. They exist in the background of government, quietly shaping decisions that most of us never see. Most of those rules is something known as the continuity of government. It's not a theory or a talking point. It is a structured, decades-old system designed to bound a single question. If something catastrophic happens, there's a big word, were to happen, and who's left behind to lead the country? That question has guided how administrations across parties and across decades have handled risk. It is the reason why the president and vice president are rarely placed in the same uncontrolled environment at the same time. It is why during major government gatherings like the State of the Union, a designated survivor is kept off site in a secure and undisclosed location. It is why travel is often staggered, while locations are swept in advance, and why overlapping exposure to risk is something that is typically minimized, not normalized. These practices did not come out of nowhere. They were shaped during periods like the Cold War, when the threat of a single strike wiping out leadership was a real concern. They were reinforced after events like September 11 attacks, which forced a modern reevaluation of what coordinated threats could look like. And though all of it, the underlying principles stayed the same. Avoid a single point of failure. Now, what that does not mean leadership is never in the same place. They are. Cabinet meetings happen, joint sessions of Congress happen. Moments where multiple branches of leadership come together do exist. But when they do, the environment is not casual. It is not open. It is not unpredictable. It is heavily controlled, layered with security and coordinated down to details most of us will never see. Agencies like the United States Secret Service conduct advanced sweeps, control access points, vet attendees, and build overlapping layers of protection designed to reduce uncertainty as much as possible. This is the baseline. That is what the rule book looks like. Now, contrast that with something like the White House Correspondents' Dinner. This is not a classified environment. It is not a closed government session. It is a high-profile social event that blends media, public figures, and political leadership into one room. The guest list is broader. The movement is less rigid. The nature of the event itself is different. That does not mean there is no security. There is. There's always some sort of security. But the question that naturally follows is whether the level of control in that type of setting matches the level of control that these continuity protocols were originally built around. Because those protocols were not designed for convenience. They were designed for worst-case scenarios. And this is where I want to be very clear about something. I have never considered myself someone who leans into conspiracy theories. That is not how I approach information, and is not how I approach this podcast. But when you take a step back and actually look at the protocols that have been established over time, then compare them to how certain environments are structured, it becomes very difficult not to ask questions. Not assume, not jump to conclusions, but ask. Because based on what is publicly known about continuity planning, based on historical reasoning behind it, and based on the emphasis placed on avoiding overlapping risks, there is a noticeable difference between highly controlled government environments and more public-facing events like this one. And when that difference exists, especially at a gathering that involves media, influence, and visibility, it creates a gap between what we expect and what we see. That gap doesn't automatically mean something went wrong. It does not prove intent, but it does raise a very simple question. Are the standards that have historically guided these decisions being applied in the same way today? Because when it comes to something as fundamental as continuity of government, even from this administration, small deviations from expectations tend to, stand out. And once you understand the rulebook, it becomes harder to ignore when something does not quite seem to follow. Today's sources come from Continuity Government Programs, Department of Homeland Security, Continuity Resources Toolkit, FEMA, Protection Mission, United States Secret Service, State of Union History, United States Senate, Cold War Overview, Encyclopedia Britannica, September 11 Attacks Overview, National September 11 Memorial and Museum, White House Correspondents' Dinner Information, White House Correspondents Association. Thank you for listening, and until next time, bye-bye for now.